Maureen Quende, your podcast host, and you're listening to the Empowerment Minutes podcast. It's a podcast to empower you with nuggets on learning and development, training, leadership coaching, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. And for those who are tuning in for the first time, I am a learning leader, researcher, speaker, coach, consultant, and author of the book, Dream Big and Live Your Dreams Boldly. I'm also the CEO and founder of EMK Learning Solutions, LLC. I've had the honor to work with instructional designers, trainers to help them become the best leaders or the best versions of themselves. So it's exciting to be back on the show this week for another empowering episode. And I can't wait to introduce you to our very special guest. But before I do, I want to take a moment to say thank you so much for tuning in every week. It means a whole lot to be a listener to this podcast. So thank you. This keeps us going. It means a whole lot to me and to other people. So thank you so much. So in today's episode, we're going to be zeroing in on leadership and communication, right? Some of those great tips and tricks that would help you be the leader that people want to follow and be excellent in communication. So in terms of leadership, we're going to focus specifically on Leadershift, which is unique, and I'm sure you're curious what that means. And also in terms of communication, specifically, we're going to zero in on the art of listening and asking great questions. So these skills really help transform today's leaders in the workplace. So I'm hoping that you who's listening to this call is going to help you become a better leader and help you lead more effectively in the workplace. So yes, let's get started. I'm going to introduce you to our special guest, and this is no one other than Dr. Michael Koku. So thank you so much, Michael. Welcome to the show. I want to say thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be a guest on this show. You could be so many other places, but you took the time to be here and just to add value to this podcast and to those who are listening. And so thank you so much. This means a lot. So yes, tell us about yourself. What do you do? Just give us some information about you in a nutshell. I'm sure our guests would like to know more about you.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm so excited to be part of this podcast. You know, Maureen is quite a phenomenal personality. I love seeing women in leadership. I have a project I'm working on called WHEEL, Women in Leadership League. So she's in the league, you know, and that's a beautiful thing because some women, they just think that being an housewife is just enough. But Maureen is one of the unusual personality that I got in that big league called WHEEL, Women in Leadership League. Yeah. So the beauty of life is knowing where you're coming from and where you're going and having that perspective. So I was trained as a physician, and it's my heart to really be a medical doctor. So while in medical school, I discovered myself, even though I finished, I qualified as a physician. I practiced for 3 years before relocating to the United States. And when I got here, I worked with the Salvation Army for 11 years, Salvation Army in West Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. While there, I was able to, I was working in the after school space as a program administrator. I formed different kind of partnership with communities and to bring transformation to the life of the people and the community that we serve. And I got the award for the 2018 Salvation Army Employee of the Year for Greater Philadelphia. I wasn't looking for an award. I just want to serve. So my life story has been serving even from college. As a medical student, I've always been in leadership position, just serving. And I believe in making people to be more. And Jim Rohn said, the only creation of God that doesn't strive to their fullest potential is human being. And that's because God has given us the dignity of choice. So that's my background. So right now, I'm a Maxwell leadership certified coach, speaker, and trainer. I help people to be more. I help people to fulfill their dreams. And I help people, you know, to really believe in themselves so that they can become what they are made to be.
Wow. I mean, what a great story. You know, it just shows how we have to really follow our passion, because here you are, having a medical background and saying that, wait, I would want to do what I really, what I've been called to do, trying to live your passion and purpose. And you're an evidence that, that you don't have to just follow the crowd. You have to do what you really are passionate about. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing that, with us. And because those who are listening in, who are just trying to fit in or trying to belong, are you just belonging, or are you really doing what you're called to do? Are you really doing or investing in doing what you're passionate about? So thank you for being a pace setter in this area. And I just hope that as you meet people every day, you can go ahead and just tell them your story and continue to inspire them to just, not just hearing what you're saying, but your evidence that people can do that and succeed. And you have so many people that you've transformed, and just encouraging anyone out there, if Dr. Koku can do it, you can do it. Just follow your dreams. All right. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Very inspiring. So today, I would say that today's topic is loaded because we're looking at leadership, but then we're looking at Leadershift. So can you break that down for us? It's pretty much multifaceted, looking at leadership and then listening and asking great questions. Please break it down. And also, can you share with us as a leadership expert, what do you mean by leadership? What's shifting? And how does that impact both the leader and the workplace, if you don't mind?
Thank you for that, Maureen. One thing about this is this is something that we can talk about, of course, in the times that we have. I'll just give you a taste of it. Talking about leadership, I'm zeroing on leadership. I'm talking about the right leader, the right shift leaders should make. And there are about 11 of them. Actually, the word leadership himself is the ability and willingness to make a leadership change that will positively enhance organizational and personal growth.
Okay.
Because the world is changing, and because times are changing, we can be the same, think the same, and remain the same, and expect to make an impact on the world that will never remain the same. And these shifts are very necessary. Otherwise, a leader will cease to be relevant. And these are the shifts that the leaders needs to make. And before that, Toffler said this. He said the illiterates of the 21st century are those that will not be able to read or write, but those that are unable to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is why we need the shift, because there's so much learning, unlearning, and relearning to be done. So the definition of illiteracy has changed. In the past, it used to be if you can read and write, but now it is those that are unable to learn, relearn, and unlearn. So these are the shifts. The first shift is, quickly, I'll just go over the shift. It's what we called the focus shift, in which we move from being a soloist to a conductor. You see, when you are a soloist, the focus is on yourself. The highlight is on you. But as a conductor, the focus is on the people that you serve. Your goal is to really find a way for them to reach their full potential, because the highest calling of a leader, according to Harvey Firestone, is the development of the people. That's the focus shift. You move from soloist to conductor. The second one is what we call the personal development shift, in which you move from goals to growth. When you are goal oriented, you're thinking about, how far you're thinking about, how long will it take? That's goal mindset. But a growth mindset is, how far can I go? It's a mindset that talks about stretching, development, compared to the goal mindset that deals with achievement and status. The third shift is what we called the cost shift. That's in which a leader moves from packs to price. Packs is based on what you get from the leadership position, but the price has to do with what you have to give as a leader, you know, and this is a vital shift, because the goal of leadership is not to get, but to give. The next shift is what we call the relational shift. Is what we call from pleasing people to challenging people. You see, if you want to please people, go sell ice cream, you can be a leader. You see, in this place, you are more concerned about what you can help the people to accomplish. That means when you move to this kind of shift, you're not really bothered about the affirmation of the people as much as helping the people to be better and to be the leader that they are meant to be. Now, the next shift is what we called the abundance shift, in which we moved from maintaining to creating. You see, and we need to have an abundance mindset. But this shift is what we call the abundance mindset shift. It's a shift that encourages the leader to believe that there is always there's an answer. You know, that's a creative mindset. The second mindset in this shift is the flexibility mindset, means there's more than one answer. Another shift is what we call the reproduction shift. In this shift, you move from ladder climbing to ladder building. That means, ladder climbing is where we all start from. That means instead of just thinking about how far can I go, you start thinking about how far can I help others to go. So your focus is moved to others. You move from what we call the leadership methods of addition to multiplication. The next shift is what we call the communication shift, from directing to connecting. In this case, you're not telling people where you are. You asking people where they are to move them from where they are to where they're supposed to be. In this next shift, we talk about the improvement shift, in which you move from team uniformity to team diversity. In fact, Dr. Tim Elmo has written a book on the new diversity, talking about how 5 generation gaps are all in the same marketplace at the same time. And there's a need for each generation to really understand. This is the kind of shift he's talking about. So it's the readiness to be able to accommodate other people's views that are different from you in order to complement you. You fill up your knowledge gap, your perspective gap, and your experience gap in this improvement shift. The next shift is what we call the influence shift, in which you move from the positional authority to moral authority. You see, position doesn't really add nothing to anybody. It's just a lever. It's just give you enough time to build relationship, because at the end of the day, in this kind of shift, the influence is based on your moral authority. That talks about your integrity and your courage, you know, compared to just your position. Positional leaders are the worst kind of leaders. The next one is what we called, that's the truth. Because if all you have is position, you lack the disposition of a real leader. So the next shift is what we call the impact shift, where you move from trained leaders to transformational leaders. You see, the difference between the trained leader and the transformational leader is this. A trained leader is focused on how to lead. But the transformational leader is more concerned about why I lead. And when you put the why on top of it, it makes all the difference, because you affect not only today, but you affect the future. That's the power of this shift. The last one is what we call the passion shift, in which you make a shift from career to calling. You talk about the other time when we start about my story, where I'm also a minister of the gospel. One thing I want everyone to know, that everyone in life, according to a research, can be grouped into 3. Those that do a job, those that build a career, and those that fulfill a calling. You see, there's nothing bad in starting with a job or a career, but your calling is your why, is the reason why you are alive. And this is what this shift has. And if there's any shift that has changed me the most, it is what we call this passion shift. And I'm very passionate about moving from this career to calling. So that's what I would just focus on today about leadership. I can take each one and expand on it. I just want the viewer, the audience to be aware that leaders have to make this shift, and this shift they involve so many learning, unlearning and relearning, and we have to have a teachable spirit. We can afford to be proudful and still be relevant in this current dispensation of leadership. Thank you.
This is oh my gosh, those are some golden nuggets. Becoming an entrepreneur, I have over 20 years of work experience, and I've had some interesting leaders that I know that I wish, something I could have a magic wand where something could get to them so they can take advantage of some of those shifts, including the improvement shift, to see that, it's not really about them, it's really about caring about their people. So I'm just hoping that as many people who listen to this podcast, they can take that really to heart and really see how they can make a difference. And maybe whoever's listening doesn't need it, but if you know someone who can benefit from it, please feel free to share this episode. And I'm going to mention that at the end, but I would also ask Michael to also provide where we can contact him if someone is interested in having this conversation with you.
And it's true. I like to talk about this shit because, like you said, many leaders are lacking in this area. That's why, in fact, I have developed what I call the right shift concept.
Right.
To really encourage people to make this shift, because this is the right shift to make. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said the time is always right to do what is right. This is not a shift that we procrastinate about. It's something we got to do now.
Now, right? The time.
Yeah.
The time is now. So I was going to ask you what are some strategies needed for effective leadership. But I think you've really spoken a lot on this topic. Is there something you'd like to add on leadership?
Well, what I would like to add on what you just talk about, the strategies that when you mention about leadership is this. Like I said, it's a whole lot, but let me quickly really help us with some of these. Because when we talk about how to leadership, let me just quickly give a breakdown on 7 things you must do to leadership successfully. 7 things you must do to leadership successfully. Number 1, continually learn, unlearn, and relearn. You see, this is what we talk about. It is a continuity. You have to be on, as a physician, there's something we call CME, continuing medical education. And I believe there should be something we call CLE, continuing leadership education. You see, a leader needs to grow daily. You know that as a Maxwell leadership team is one of our culture, one of our DNA. So the first thing is continually learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because the lesson learned in school can become outdated even before the student loans have been paid. So there's a need for dedication to learning. Listen, it's not what you learn in school that made you, it's what you learn after school. Because when we are learning something in school, our drive is great. But when we learn something after school, our drive is not great, is to be able to serve people better. And that's the beauty of it. So number 2, value yesterday, but live in today. So it's good to value yesterday, but we have to live in the moment. You see, that's what awareness means. Awareness means living in the moment. So it's good to relish yesterday, but we have to value we have to live in the moment. Dr. John Maxwell said, people may honor you for what you did yesterday, but they respect you for what you are doing now. A lot of people just sit down, they're talking about, you can be sharing stories when you are still young. You got so much life ahead of you. Number 3, rely on speed, but thrive on timing. You see, you need to thrive on timing. For a leader, timing is everything. You remember the law of the timing as one of the 21 laws of 21 irrefutable law of leadership. Then number 4, see the big picture as the picture keeps getting bigger. So you have to see the big picture. As the picture keep getting me, you have to make sure that you don't lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Number 5, live in today, but think about tomorrow. So as you live in today, the awareness level, you have to think about tomorrow. The future has a way of arriving unannounced. And that is the plan of that leadership mindset. Number 6, move forward courageously in the midst of uncertainty. You see, there's a difference between leadership and management. You see, leadership is something that doesn't, in management, you have, one, and this is equal to this and all that. But in the leadership mix, it changes because people are involved. People have different interests. So that is why uncertainty is what gives leaders their job security. Uncertainty is why you are a leader. Wherever there's uncertainty, there will always be a need for leaders, which means always stepping out into the unknown. And that requires courage. Number 7, which is the last point, realize today's best will not meet tomorrow's challenges. For instance, the Queen just died yesterday. There's a leadership gap now in Great Britain, and no matter what we have today, no matter the best of what we have today, there's going to be a tomorrow's challenge. We have a new prime minister coming in 2 days before the Queen died, a new king coming in. This is what we are talking about. There's going to be a new level of, of rising up to the challenges to lead the people in the right way. And that will really impact the world at large. Thank you.
This is powerful. I'm just going to, I wish I could just talk, we just have this podcast to go on all day, but I know you're a busy man, you have time, you have things to do. But I would like to segue into communication. And one of my favorite books by John Maxwell is Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And the benefit of asking great questions cannot be overemphasized for leaders. But, in my experience, many leaders don't even listen, don't even hone in on this listening skills. So how can you address this?
Yeah, thank you so much, Maureen. Another thing I'm passionate about, even in my mastermind that I do mastermind every month. I'm doing one at the moment. I like to emphasize 2 things, and I call them the 2 sides of the coin. And these are the skills I really emphasize, and it has changed so many lives, so many organizations. I emphasize the value of asking good questions, and I also emphasize the value of listening. And when I do that, I like to give people a degree of a CLO, Chief Listening Officer. And this is very important, Maureen, because I tell you, when I found this out, it's changed my life. It starts with me, with my wife, and she's having a conversation with me. Here am I, multitasker, doing something, and she felt disrespected and all that. She doesn't feel hard, and I have to work on myself on that. So let me just talk about these 2 things. I call them the twin top skills every leader should have. And they are just like when you look at a coin, if you look at it, a quarter of $1, 25 cents, or a nickel, the 2 sides of the coin is legit.
Yeah.
Both of them are very critical. I believe if leaders could learn and master this skill of asking questions and the value of listening to people, it will change their leadership. Now, let me start from asking question. Now, the value of question is this: it is better to look uninformed than to be uninformed. Some people, the reason why they don't ask questions is that they feel that, well, if I ask question, I will look somehow stupid. Listen, it is better to look uninformed than to be uninformed. You may look uninformed for a minute, but you know what? You can be uninformed forever. So it's better to ask question. Now, what are the values of question? Number 1, they are keys to unlocking doors. Yeah. Questions open doors. You see, what you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah. One of the books I'm reading right now is called The Aladdin Factor by Jack Canfield. and Mark Victor Ensign. These are the New York Times best-selling authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And they highlighted 5 barriers of asking. They highlight 5 barriers to asking. And I believe this also applies for asking questions. The first thing that they mention is ignorance. That's the first barrier that they mention. Why people doesn't ask. Number 2, they talk about limiting and inaccurate beliefs. That's the second thing that they talk about. And number 3, in highlighting why people don't ask, they also mention the fear factor. Fear is one of the reasons why people don't ask questions. And this fear is a real huge topic. Number 4, the reason why people don't ask questions is low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. And now the 5th factor is pride. Now, if you look at all these factors, these 5 barriers to asking questions, now, when we see the value, it outweighs all those barriers. So the first thing I talk about is that their questions are the keys to opening doors. Number 2, questions are the keys to connecting with people. You see, the way we are made as a social being. That's why during the lockdown, social distancing, something inside of us doesn't like it, because we are made in form of a Lego to connect with other humans being. And that's the thing about it. So connecting people, question does that. Question creates a bridge instead of a wall. It breaks down barriers. Number 3, question cultivates humility. I told you one of the barriers to asking is pride. So one of the ways for leaders to cultivate humility is to ask questions. Just imagine you asking the people on your leadership team that, this is, we are having a project. What do you think about that? You see, it shows your level of humility. Right. You coming from your us to ask. Many people, nobody asked them what they think. And you gave them a huge moment of fulfillment that, wow, we have a boss that believes in what we are thinking. Another value of asking questions is question help you to engage others for conversation. One of the things I've looked at is, some people say, how can I ask a question from a stranger? Let's say we met in a different place. I've never met you before. Let me give you a quick a hack to that. Hack to asking questions. There's a formula I want you to use called FORM. FORM. It's like you filling a form. So when you meet someone and you want to engage that person in a conversation, start using that formula FORM. Now, F means family. So ask them about, how is your family? That's a very quick way. How is your family? Then the O talks about, what do you do? Occupation. What do you do? Everybody has something that occupies their time. Then the R talks about recreation. What do you love doing out of work? What kind of hobby do you have? Their recreation. What do you do for recreation? Then the last one, M, is very important. What's your mission? What's your purpose in life? These are quick way. And as you just fill those forms, but let me say, some new question will start popping up from your mind, from your mind dashboard to ask more. But it's just a quick way to break the ice. Those are icebreakers. I just gave you the FORM icebreakers. Now, the last value of asking question is it allows us to build better ideas. You see, ideas are made better when the right people are brought into the mix. So when you ask questions from people, maybe you have an idea and you ask, well, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think about this? You can make any idea better by asking questions. Now, let's go to the second aspect, which is the listening aspect. I'll spend more time with this because I'm really hype about this. Now, one of my great mentors in this space is Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek said, listening is not the act, ACT, of hearing the word spoken. It is the art, ART, of understanding the meaning behind those words.
Right.
You see, a lot of people just think that listening is just like, oh, it's just an ACT, it's an act of you just hearing the words someone is speaking. No, It is the art, A-R-T, of understanding the meaning behind those words. The art of listening is creating an environment where the other person feel heard. I want you to know that word, feel heard. Feeling heard is nothing cerebral. It is all emotional.
Right.
It is emotional when people feel heard. When people feel heard, they feel respected. And another thing that Simon Sinek also said that really inspired me about in this space is said, hearing is listening to what is being said. But listening is hearing what is not being said.
Yes.
So you see, when you talk about hearing, you are just listening to what someone is saying. But there's something people are not saying. How do you get that? Through listening. So that's why I want to quickly give you some hacks to listening, because there's been a lot of emphasis on talk show. There's no listening show. There's been a lot of emphasis on peace talk. There's no listening talk. So there's been a version of, the queen of talk. I've never had the queen of listening. You see, and the emphasis has been, he's a coach, he's a speaker, he's a trainer. There's no such thing as listening. So there has been a less emphasis on listening. So let's look at 5 easy ways to practice listening. Now, there are 3 kinds of listening. We have what we call active listening. We have what we call compassionate listening. And we also have what we call empathic listening. So when we talk about active listening, let's see 5 easy ways to practice active listening. Now, I'll give you, I love acronym.
I love acronyms too.
This acronym is BUILD. It's called BUILD, BUILD, as if you are building something. So the acronym for 5 easy ways to practice active listening is called BUILD, BUILD. So what does the B means? The B means body language. You see, when you are listening to someone, the body language is very important. There's something we call leaning in. When you are listening to someone, you lean in. That means your body posture is focused on that person. There's a way you listen to someone that you sit with the person, you lean in. I mean, you adjust your posture. The person know that, wow, this person is really listening. So that's the first one, B. The second one is you, understanding. Now, in this practice, you aim to truly understand what is being said and also what is not being said. And in this frame, that's what you do. You remember Stephen Covey talks about seek, to understand before you are understood. And this is the key. This seeking to let the people know that really you are aiming to really understand what they are saying and what they are not saying. Now, the I component is what we call interrupting. Now, because this is what you don't want to do when you are listening. You don't want to interrupt people. Because interrupting people stops the flow of conversation. It makes them feel unheard and disrespected. Anytime you interrupt people, you're telling them what I have to say is more important than what you have to say. And people, they don't like that. So the fourth one is L. Now the L is look them in the eye. When you are listening to someone, there have to be an eye-to-eye connection. It's very, very important. Look people in the eye. That is, you are locking their eyes with yours. It's showing them that you are really listening. The last one is the D, don't judge. Don't judge. You have to quit judging. We replace judgment, that means judging people, with empathy and curiosity. Now, empathy is putting yourself in their shoes. We don't like to be judged when we are speaking to people. And then the other thing is you replace it with curiosity. You curious. You ask people while you are listening to them, tell me more. Tell me more. So you replace judging people with empathy, that means putting yourself in their shoe, and curiosity by telling them, tell me more. Tell me more. That means, wow, you really want to listen. So these are the 5 easy ways. Now, quickly, let me give you more about this listening. How do we listen well? How to listen well? 4 ways on how to listen well. Number 1, remind yourself daily to listen well. Dr. John Maxwell likes saying something. He said, anytime he goes for a meeting, he writes a big L in a white paper and put it in front of himself to remind himself to listen well to people. Now, number 2, stop interrupting. You don't interrupt people. Stop interrupting. That's how to listen well. Number 3, start asking questions. You see, you can separate listening from asking questions. Start asking questions. Then number 4, invite people to hold you accountable for listening. I don't know if you have time for me to share quickly the levels of listening. And if no time, no problem, I'll hold that.
Yeah, I think maybe if you don't mind, we have to do a separate episode on listening because people don't listen enough. This is a topic that can really, honestly, it's wow. You have given so much that I don't even know where to start to express my appreciation. But
you're welcome.
I know that, and so I just also want to say I had like other questions, but I'm going to have to leave that for next time. But I also want to ask you that if someone would like to, someone who can't wait for a part 2 of this podcast, later on, on another time, where can they find you even to share about, what we just talked about?
Well, I'm available on Facebook, Michael Koku. Just my name, Michael, I say Michael, then Koku. They can find me on LinkedIn too. And they can also find me on Instagram. Yeah. So, this is really a very, to me, like I said, this is a calling to me.
Yes.
And I love to help people. Helping people is my passion. And I have a project called Hope, helping other people excel. The name of my company is Esperanza Manifold Concept. Esperanza means hope in Spanish. And what I do, with that hope is helping other people excel. That's what my company does. I help companies to excel, I help individual to excel. So the hope mantra, even though the word is in Spanish, is a brand. So that's what I do with my training, with my coaching, with my speaking. My goal is to help people to excel. I believe there's always more. That's why I'm not really comfortable with status quo. I like to encourage people that there's always more. You can be more. You can be more.
Yes,
what
absolutely.
you are now. Yeah.
So then, do you mind if I share, because we have the podcast show notes? Do you mind if I put the link on?
Yeah, sure. You can put my phone number too. My phone number is also 484-466-1036. 484-466-1036. You can share that with people. I'm reachable.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So we've come to the end of this amazing podcast with this incredibly loaded guest. And so we always wrap up the podcast with a signature question. What does empowerment mean to you? In this situation, you're leadership, you're a communication expert. So what does the word empowerment mean to you?
I believe empowerment is not just being empowered, but having the ability to empower others. Because it's not about, because real leaders are not just leaders that's all about just empowering people, but when you talk about empowerment, empowerment is just a word that shows a sense of that comes with responsibility, because as leaders, you are empowered not to be empowered, but to empower people under your charge. And I believe leaders should know this, because influence exists for others. Whatever influence you have is not for yourself, it's for others.
All right.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. Wow, this has been an amazing episode, and I would personally re-listen to this quite a few times. As you were talking, I was taking notes. I remember.
I saw you.
I remember the acronym you wrote. You talk about FORM, family, occupation, recreation, and mission. It's just huge. You've just given us so many golden nuggets. I just want to say Thank you so much. I want to wish you the best in your personal and professional life. Keep doing the great things you're doing. Keep leading ahead, leading, the people that you're meant or you're destined to lead and transforming their life. So thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right. To our listeners out there, I definitely know you've been richly blessed today with so many golden nuggets from our special guests. And this has really been an amazing episode. So I would say to you, be safe, be well, and make a shift where you have to make a shift to become the leader that you are created to be. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.